There is an ancient saying that goes, "When the student is ready, the master appears." Today I invite you to understand one of the most profound pillars of occult wisdom, the 7 Hermetic Principles, derived from the legendary Emerald Tablets, created by Hermes Trismegistus, also known as Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom. Each of these principles is a key, and together they form the master key that opens all the doors to the Temple of Mysteries. This video is a compilation of 7 videos, each one explaining one of the 7 principles in detail, so that in the end, you too will hold the master key in your hands. The Hermetic Principles are the framework upon which this universe was created. To understand these principles is to understand how the universe works. However, the one who masters these principles becomes the master of their own reality. You will notice that these principles complement each other, and that their order is not random. Now, prepare yourself to dive deep into Hermetic wisdom and enter the Temple of Mysteries. Today, we are going to delve into one of the fundamental pillars of Hermeticism, the first of the 7 Hermetic laws, known as the Principle of Mentalism. It states, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." This seemingly simple phrase holds a universe of implications within it. What does it truly mean to say, "The all is mind"? That the universe is ultimately a mental construct? That our experiences are mere reflections of our thoughts? Today, we will explore the true power behind this principle and its corroboration within modern physics. This principle not only opens the doors to the other 6 pillars of Hermes Trismegistus, but reveals to us a secret that completely transforms our way of seeing and interacting with the universe. When we affirm that the all is mind, we enter the mystery that the universe, all that is, was, and will be, is a manifestation of the universal mind, what Hindus call Vishnu's dream. Each of us is an intrinsic part of this manifestation. So, let us explore this deeply, for once we understand the first law, the doors to the mysteries of the spirit begin to open. To begin, it's essential to understand what this term, mentalism, means. According to the Kybalion, the most well-known book on Hermeticism, mentalism reveals that reality is not physical, nor made of solid, tangible matter as we might imagine. On the contrary, it is a mental construct, a creation of the universal mind, the all. Imagine that every element you see, touch, and feel is part of a vast mental projection, a vision many associate with the concept of the Matrix. This universe, which appears so concrete to us, is an elaborate construct that emerges from consciousness. The ancient masters of Hermeticism teach us that there is an unbreakable connection between our individual mind and this universal mind. In other words, we are sparks of the mind of the all. When you think, create, and imagine, you are using the power of a mind that is ultimately part of the universal consciousness. However, this profound thought raises a question. If we are sparks of the all, why do we feel so distant from the universal mind? What prevents us from perceiving this connection in our daily lives? And the answer lies in another Hermetic maxim. Our human mind, limited by experiences, conditioning, and individual perceptions, is obscured by the illusion of separateness. Various spiritual and philosophical traditions share this idea. Buddha taught that all that we are is the result of what we have thought. Our mind is everything. And this directly echoes the Hermetic principle. Today, science begins to tread a path that reveals the depths of the mind and its influence on reality. Physicist Max Planck, known as the father of quantum physics, stated, I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. The principle of mentalism finds a fascinating reflection in the famous double-slit experiment, first conducted by physicist Thomas Young in the early 19th century, and revisited with greater depth as quantum science advanced. The experiment is at first simple. A particle, such as an electron, is fired at a barrier with two slits. On the other side of the barrier, there's a screen to record the impact pattern of the particles. When scientists try to predict the behavior of this particle, something extraordinary happens. If no one observes the electron, it behaves like a wave, passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern like ripples in a pond. However, upon introducing a measure to observe which slit the particle goes through, the electron decides to behave like a particle. It chooses only one of the slits, eliminating the interference pattern and creating a pattern that indicates a defined trajectory. This phenomenon reveals that, at a quantum level, the act of observing modifies reality. The observer seems to interfere with the essential nature of the particle, forcing it to choose a specific state. This phenomenon goes beyond materialistic understanding and opens the door to deeper interpretations of the relationship between mind and reality. The double-slit experiment confirms that observation, consciousness focused on a point, possesses the power to determine the state of things. And here lies the great teaching of the first Hermetic law. Reality is malleable, subjective, susceptible to the conscious mind that observes, interacts, and creates. This is what Hermes Trismegistus pointed to millennia ago. Imagine the mind as a vast ocean, where every thought, every observation acts like a stone tossed onto the water's surface, creating ripples and affecting everything around it. When you direct your attention to something, you throw that stone and create the movement, transforming potentiality into manifestation, like the electron that decides to be a particle instead of a wave. This is the mental power that the Hermetic Principle speaks of. The first Hermetic law reveals to us that the mind is the key to creation. But what happens when the power of this mind, our deepest and most creative force, is dispersed and weakened? We live in an era where human attention has become the most coveted resource. Our energy, once focused on conscious creation, is being manipulated and consumed. And this is no accident. In a world where our ability to create reality depends on the strength of our attention, controlling where that attention is directed becomes a form of power. Modern distractions, social media, constant notifications, advertising, and an endless stream of information act as silent thieves of our mental energy. This fragmentation of the mind distances us from our creative essence and transforms us into mere reactors instead of authors of our own experiences. Studies show that the excess of information and constant stimuli alter our ability to concentrate and memorize in a lasting way, impairing our ability to maintain focus. Over time, the mind loses its sharpness and clarity. It's as if our mental strength is a blade, and daily distractions wear it down, making it less sharp and effective. The average person's attention span is now comparable to that of a betta fish. In Hermetic teachings, attention is seen as a tool for creation. Imagine it as the concentrated light of a magnifying glass. When your attention is focused, you can concentrate all the energy on a single point, intensifying and manifesting what you desire. But when that light is dispersed, we lose the power to transform and direct our path. We become passive observers, submerged in a torrent of superficial stimuli. In addition to fragmenting focus, modern distractions subtly shape our subconscious. Everything we see and hear, even if it seems irrelevant, leaves a mark on our minds. In the silence of our unconscious, this information accumulates, forming beliefs, fears, and behavior patterns. And as we have seen, the subconscious is a powerful creator of reality. By absorbing information imposed upon us without filtering, we allow our beliefs and values to be programmed by external agents. Instead of nurturing ideas aligned with our true essence, we allow others' realities to impose on ours. Philosopher Aldous Huxley observed that distraction will be the most effective means of control over man. And he was right. A scattered being with unconsciously shaped beliefs does not have the power to shape their own reality. The key to regaining control of your reality lies in regaining control of your mind. And for that, nothing is more powerful than meditation. When we speak of reclaiming control of the mind, meditation emerges as an essential practice. The first Hermetic law teaches us that the mind is the matrix from which all is created. However, a scattered mind, constantly in motion and subject to external influences, loses its ability to focus and intend. To meditate, then, is the path to gather attention and direct it, like a lens focusing light on a single point, until it becomes capable of igniting fire. In Hermetic practice, meditation is a return to zero point, the space where nothing and everything coexist. This state is the gateway to accessing our creative power, for only in a state of stillness and full presence does the mind find the balance to become a true tool for conscious creation. Meditation acts as a workout for the mind, strengthening our attention span. By sitting in silence, focusing on the breath or a point of internal observation, you are gradually breaking the cycle of distraction that dominates modern life. You are teaching the mind to remain in a state of presence, of non-reactivity. Every time a thought arises and is consciously set aside, you regain a bit of control over your mind. Imagine attention as a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Likewise, regular meditation increases the mind's capacity to focus, stabilize, and resist external distractions, reclaiming its creative potential and freeing itself from the chains of external influences. In addition to improving control over the conscious mind, meditation is also one of the most powerful ways to access the subconscious. In large part, it is the subconscious that dictates what we manifest. Therefore, if we want to transform our reality, we must dive into the depths of our subconscious and dissolve the beliefs, fears, and traumas that block our creative power. During meditation, we enter states of deep relaxation that connect us with the subconscious. In moments of stillness, old emotions and patterns emerge to be seen and finally transcended. This process is fundamental to aligning the conscious mind with the subconscious, making it an ally in creating the desired reality. When we purify our subconscious, we eliminate the blocks that unconsciously sabotage us, making space for clarity and focus in our intentions and creations. At the heart of these teachings, we understand that the universe we perceive, with all its complexities and nuances, is ultimately a projection of our minds. But what happens when most of this creation originates from an unknown, barely explored region within us? The subconscious is the vast ocean where thoughts and beliefs that we often ignore are contained. Yet it paradoxically shapes our perception and consequently our reality in profound ways. It is the deep layer of the mind that does not operate through reason or direct logic, but through symbols, memories, and emotions. Here lie the roots of experiences, perceptions, and beliefs that sustain our worldview. Imagine the subconscious as a video camera, recording every moment, every emotion, every word, and every image since the earliest years of life. This constant recording goes beyond what you consciously perceive, as it also carries an emotional interpretation. It records fears, joys, insecurities. Each memory and emotion, once fixed in the subconscious, begins to create invisible molds that determine how you will view the world, your relationships, and even your possibilities for success and fulfillment. If the subconscious is the great mold of our reality, we need to understand how it directly influences what we experience. Limiting beliefs are ideas deeply rooted in the subconscious that generate restrictions on what we consider possible or attainable. For instance, someone who believes, even unconsciously, that they are not deserving of love may unconsciously push away people who genuinely love them, sabotaging their relationships. These limiting beliefs operate like hidden programs that bind us to patterns and repetitive cycles, preventing our conscious mind from fully manifesting the realities we desire. They work like filters, distorting our perception of the world and creating a kind of mirror that reflects not what we desire, but what we truly believe is possible. This mirror reflects, without censorship, the content of the subconscious, revealing shadows and illusions that remain hidden. By understanding how the subconscious influences our reality, we can begin the process of intentional reprogramming. This practice requires patience and repetition, as the subconscious is like fertile soil that needs to be plowed, nurtured, and cared for. Positive affirmations, visualizations, and meditative practices help remove deeply rooted beliefs and replace limiting patterns with a new vision of oneself. For example, if seeking abundance in your life, you must identify and dissolve beliefs like, "I am not worthy," or "the world is scarce." Then, through affirmations and visualizations, you plant new seeds like, "I am worthy of abundance," and "the universe is generous." Over time, this new programming begins to manifest in reality, as the subconscious is trained to respond to what it receives with repetition and emotion. Emotions are the fuel of the subconscious mind. They intensify the impression of beliefs and experiences, shaping reality with intense creative force. When you feel something deeply, this emotion becomes a message to the subconscious, which replicates this experience in your life. If you want to cultivate confidence, for example, visualize yourself in situations where you act with security and determination. Feel this confidence flowing through your body as if it were already true. The subconscious does not distinguish the real from the imagined, and thus it begins to accept this new emotional impression as part of its programming, reflecting it in your reality. Through reprogramming, self-knowledge, and the cultivation of elevated emotions, we can access the full potential of our subconscious mind, transforming it from a territory of shadows and limitations into a creative ally, capable of guiding us to our highest purpose. The first Hermetic law reveals to us that we are co-creators of our reality. Our mind is a temple, and what we create within this temple inevitably reflects in the external world. When we allow our attention to be taken by distractions, we cease to be the masters of this temple and become its servants. But by cultivating attention, practicing meditation, and diving into our subconscious, we can reclaim the reins of creation. We can choose what we want to see flourish in our inner garden, and consequently, in the garden of the universe around us. Thank you for watching. As above, so below. As within, so without. This ancient Hermetic truth, expressed in the words of the Emerald Tablet, invites us to look beyond appearances, to perceive that the microcosm and the macrocosm are not separate entities, but two faces of the same universal reality. The same intelligence that forms the stars, forms the atoms within our bodies. Today, we will explore the depth of this universal law and how it connects with the latest advances in science and with the millennial wisdom of mystics and philosophers throughout history. We will understand how this principle can be applied in our lives, to become more complete and conscious beings. This law, known as the principle of correspondence, holds that reality in all its dimensions is structured fractally. This Hermetic principle suggests that everything in the universe is connected and that every fragment of the whole reflects the whole. For example, the cells of our body carry the same genetic code that constitutes the entire organism, and each cell, in a way, is a microcosm of the body. Likewise, the movement of galaxies resembles the movement of atoms and electrons in their nuclei, showing that the universal laws are the same, whether on astronomical or subatomic scales. The law of correspondence teaches us to see the universe as a great mirror. If you want to understand reality, first observe yourself. Just as the macrocosm affects the microcosm, our internal state influences the world around us. And here we find a powerful key. By transforming what is within, we also transform what is outside. From a spiritual perspective, as above, so below, leads us to a deep understanding of the unity of everything. Jesus Christ, in his wisdom, said, "The kingdom of God is within you." Luke 17:21. Just as the cosmos contains within itself the potential for everything, the human being, in its inner microcosm, contains the seed of the divine. The human mind is, at the same time, an observer and a creation of the universe. Just as the cosmic whole expresses itself in every atom, the human being is a reflection of the totality of the cosmos. As Hermetic philosophy states, each person is a microcosm, a small universe that, as it expands, reaches and harmonizes with the greater universe. This reveals the power and responsibility of taking care of one's own mind, thoughts, and emotions. By doing so, we also take care of what is outside of us. The philosopher Plotinus asserted that the more a man knows himself, the more he knows the universe and what is beyond it. This idea echoes the Hermetic principle that, to understand the cosmos, we must first unveil the universe that exists within us. Spiritual philosophy teaches that our internal state, thoughts, emotions, beliefs, acts as a lens that shapes the way we perceive the external world. If we are at peace, we see the world with peace. If we are in conflict, the world around us seems hostile and disharmonious. This understanding reveals that the barriers we perceive between the self and the other, or between man and the universe, are illusory. In reality, we are part of a greater whole, and what happens inside us is in constant interaction with what happens outside. Thus, by transforming the inner universe, we adjust our relationship with the outer universe. For mystics, understanding as above, so below means recognizing that everything that exists in the cosmos also exists in potential within us. Carl Jung, Swiss psychologist and scholar of symbolism, cited in almost every video on this channel, explained that the personal unconscious of the human being is a reflection of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of images, ideas, and archetypes that shape how we experience life. Just as the cosmos is in constant movement and transformation, the inner universe of each human being is dynamic and pulsating. By exploring this inner universe, the individual not only discovers aspects of themselves, but also connects with archetypal forces and universal truths that are part of the entire cosmos. Therefore, the spiritual journey is a journey of return to this universal center that exists within us. Just as the principle of as above, so below affirms the correspondence between the macrocosm and the microcosm, it also suggests an integration between spirit and matter, between being and doing, between the internal and the external. Paracelsus, one of the great alchemists and philosophers of nature, said that the understanding of oneself is the first step toward understanding all things. For alchemists, the ultimate goal of self-knowledge is union with the whole. By transforming our inner lead, fears, doubts, limitations, into gold, wisdom, peace, self-mastery. We align with the divine flow of the universe. It is the alchemical process, the work of harmonizing what is above with what is below, and of seeing matter and spirit as one. The principle of correspondence invites us to see the universe as a series of layers and realities that mirror each other. It suggests that there is an intimate relationship between different planes of existence, and that what occurs on one level of reality has reflections, parallels, or resonances in others. In the context of the duality between spirit and matter, the second Hermetic law reveals that spirit and matter, although seemingly opposites, are in fact reflections of the same essential reality. The material world we experience is a reflection of forces, ideas, and laws that operate on the spiritual plane, such that matter is like a shadow or expression of the subtle laws and energies of the spirit. According to the principle of correspondence, spirit is the original or causal plane, where all ideas and energies originate. Matter, then, is the reflection of this origin, shaped according to the invisible laws and patterns of the spirit. Think of the spirit as the source and matter as the image projected by this source. Matter only exists as a function of the presence and movement of this underlying spiritual energy. Thus, the visible world is shaped by the invisible forces of the spiritual plane, much like a statue is sculpted from an idea. Likewise, any transformation or change we wish to see in matter begins, first and foremost, on the spiritual plane, whether through intention, vision, or the mind. An example to understand this relationship lies in nature itself. Consider DNA, an invisible structure to the naked eye, but one that contains all the information necessary to create a complex physical organism. This relationship between DNA and the physical body is a reflection of the correspondence between spirit, as the source of information and energy, and matter, as the expression of this essence. By aligning our mind and intentions with spiritual laws, we can influence and shape matter according to our will. However, this does not mean controlling or manipulating material reality. Rather, it is a process of alignment. When we understand that matter is merely a densification of spirit, we realize that profound transformations occur when we operate directly on the spiritual plane, that is, on the level of our intentions, thoughts, and beliefs. For example, someone wishing for prosperity may understand that this abundance begins in the spirit, through a mind that generates beliefs of self-worth, confidence, and gratitude. By nurturing these spiritual and mental patterns, the reflection in the material world inevitably manifests, even if in a gradual and subtle way. Life is a constant dance between spirit and matter, where the goal is not to deny one in favor of the other, but to recognize and harmonize both. True alchemy, then, lies in integrating the spiritual world with material life, recognizing that each aspect of our physical existence has a spiritual reflection, and that each spiritual experience can be lived in matter. This means that the search for meaning and purpose, often associated with the spiritual plane, must have practical expression in our daily lives. When we cultivate the spirit through practices of self-knowledge, such as meditation and introspection, we are simultaneously creating a stronger foundation for a fulfilling, aligned material life full of meaning. Ultimately, the principle of correspondence reminds us that the duality of spirit and matter is, at its essence, an illusion created by our limited perception. Both are expressions of the same universal truth. Just as light passing through a prism divides into several colors, spirit manifests in matter without losing its original essence. This understanding allows for profound spiritual freedom, as we recognize that, by fully living on the material plane and honoring physical life, we are also expressing the spirit. The purpose of our spiritual journey, then, is not to escape matter, but to transcend it, seeing it as a reflection of spirit in motion. The Hermetic maxim, "As above, so below," is not only a philosophical or esoteric concept, it also manifests clearly and objectively in the phenomena of nature. When we observe the natural world, we see that the same structure and operational patterns we find on small scales repeat on much larger dimensions. This correspondence between the microcosm and the macrocosm is not merely symbolic. It is imprinted in the fundamental patterns that govern matter and energy. One of the most emblematic examples of as above, so below in nature is the phenomenon of fractals. Fractals are shapes that repeat on different scales and can be observed in both tiny objects and colossal structures. Fractal geometry is evidence that the same patterns that structure the universe in its vastness are found in the minutiae of the natural world. Take, for example, the spiral symmetry of the Nautilus shell and compare it to the shape of a spiral galaxy. The same Fibonacci mathematical sequence that organizes the growth of a flower's petals also applies to the arms of galaxies. The principle of as above, so below becomes visible in this repetition of patterns, showing that nature follows a universal order. This mathematical organization is known to many as sacred geometry, a language of the cosmos that structures everything from the movement of subatomic particles to the growth cycle of plants and the formation of star systems. Nature is driven by cycles that reflect one another, from the smallest organisms to the largest ecosystems. The cycle of life, birth, growth, death, and renewal, is one of the most universal examples. Just as the seasons change in a perpetual cycle, all living beings experience a version of this cycle in their own lives. In the human body, for example, the circulatory system is a microcosm of the Earth's hydrological system. Just as rivers flow to the ocean, blood flows to the heart, and from there to the rest of the body, nourishing and connecting all parts. Both follow a similar principle of flow and return, demonstrating that the macrocosm, the Earth, and the microcosm, the human being, are organized by the same underlying intelligence. This correspondence between the micro and the macro also manifests in the cycles of sleep and wakefulness, in the rhythms of cellular activity, and in planetary rotation, showing that the principle of correspondence is a fundamental code in all vital processes. Another clear example of as above, so below appears in the structure of atoms and solar systems. The nucleus of an atom, surrounded by electrons that revolve around it, closely resembles the Sun at the center of a planetary system, with planets orbiting. This similarity has led some scientists and mystics to suggest that the basic structure of the universe may be repetitive and holographic, with the same pattern repeating on subatomic and cosmic scales. This analogy reveals an ordered universe, where the microcosm and macrocosm reflect each other. The philosopher and mathematician Pythagoras believed that number is the principle of all things, suggesting that reality is structured by mathematical and geometric principles that apply both to the vastness of galaxies and to the most insignificant particle. In the field of consciousness, scientists such as David Bohm, a physicist and collaborator of Albert Einstein, proposed the idea of hollow movement. Bohm suggested that reality is not composed of separate parts, but rather of an indivisible totality, where the parts are not isolated, but reflections of a greater and indivisible reality, much like a hologram. In other words, each part of the universe contains the whole, reflecting the idea that what happens at one level of reality impacts other levels. Benoit Mandelbrot, the mathematician of the last century who discovered fractals, revealed how these patterns are a fundamental characteristic of various systems. When we look at the universe with this fractal view, each small part seems to be a smaller scale version of the whole. Thus, as above, so below becomes not just a philosophical metaphor, but an observable phenomenon in the natural world. The law of correspondence shows us how the external world, our results, our health, our physical appearance, is a direct mirror of the inner world, that is, our beliefs, intentions, and above all, our daily habits. Every small act we repeat is an expression of our mindset, and when accumulated, it creates a tangible and visible reality. Just as a stone thrown into a lake creates waves that spread, our habits and thought patterns reverberate and shape our body and our life. In other words, our physical, emotional, and even financial condition is the result of a reflection of what we consistently cultivate within. Every aspect of our life is a manifestation of what we believe, desire, and practice daily. A disciplined mind is the fertile ground for creating healthy and consistent habits. Someone with a disciplined mindset, with clarity of purpose and goals, reflects this inner order in their body. Mental discipline translates into concrete actions, regular meal times, physical exercise, and practices that nourish and strengthen the body. As a result, the body becomes an expression of this organized mind, healthy, strong, and balanced. On the other hand, a disorganized mind that easily yields to distractions and does not set priorities tends to generate harmful habits. This type of mentality is reflected in a body that shows signs of disorder, excess weight, chronic fatigue, health problems. When there is a lack of internal discipline, the tendency is to seek immediate comfort, processed foods, excessive sedentary behavior, lack of sleep, that although providing momentary satisfaction, result in long-term physical and emotional degeneration. Consider someone who constantly procrastinates, delays exercise, and does not care about the quality of their food. This person reflects a state of mental disorganization in their body. Excess weight and constant fatigue are then expressions of the undisciplined and disordered mind. As the Greek philosopher Aristotle wisely said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Each small action, when repeated daily, has a profound impact. The one who dedicates a few minutes daily to self-care, learning, or physical exercise is planting seeds that, over time, create an abundant harvest. Small gestures of care and discipline, when added together, result in great achievements and a fuller life. To an outside observer, a significant physical or mental transformation may seem like the result of something drastic, but in reality, it is the reflection of many small acts done with consistency and intention. Deep transformation happens when we understand that success or failure are, in fact, the fruits of small choices made daily. A simple habit, like drinking more water every day, may seem insignificant in isolation. But over months, it can transform a person's skin, energy, and overall health. This is the principle of correspondence in action. Small acts that begin in the microcosm of the mind, manifest in daily life, and then create profound changes in the macrocosm of life. To transform external results, whether in the body, health, or relationships, it is necessary to start from the inside, from the mind and spirit. This is the power of the principle of correspondence. By changing our mindset and cultivating beliefs of discipline, self-care, and self-love, our daily habits begin to reflect these internal changes. And gradually, our external environment adjusts to this new internal configuration. Those who have clarity of purpose and direction, those who know what they want to build and achieve, develop habits that sustain that path. A strong body, a clear mind, and an organized life are reflections of a soul that has found a reason to exist and expresses it through every small action. When contemplating the principle of correspondence, we begin to understand that this ancient wisdom is not limited to theoretical reflection. It offers a compass for living with more harmony, authenticity, and intention. Applying this principle to everyday life can help us align our inner world with the outer world, fostering clarity, emotional balance, and well-being. Just as the universe organizes itself into cycles and harmony, we must also seek this balance within ourselves. At its core, the universe is like a vibrant melody, and each of us is a note, resonating in the harmony of the whole. What we are on the inside is manifested on the outside. Our thoughts, our beliefs, our daily habits are the invisible threads that weave the reality around us. The principle of correspondence reminds us that we are the sculptors of our own existence. The clay is our consciousness, and the chisel, our actions. And so, like a mirror that reflects the starry sky in the calm waters of a lake, life responds precisely to what we emanate from our soul. If we seek peace, let us cultivate serenity. If we desire strength, nourish it with discipline. And if we want love, let it blossom in us as a pure and unquenchable flame. Let us always remember, what we create within ourselves, the world will return to us in reflection. As above, so below. As within, so without. May every choice we make be a silent and intentional prayer, echoing in eternity and bringing forth the highest expression of our being. Thank you for watching. Imagine for a moment that everything around you, from the solid ground beneath your feet to the fleeting thoughts in your mind, is in constant motion, in an eternal pulse of energy. Today we delve into one of the universe's most enigmatic and powerful laws, the law of vibration, the third Hermetic principle, which declares that nothing is at rest, nothing is static, everything vibrates. This law, transcending cultures and traditions, is an essential key to understanding the hidden workings of the cosmos. From the ancient texts of Hermeticism to modern quantum physics, the idea that all is in constant vibration has been a fundamental pillar for those seeking to unlock the universe's mysteries. The law of vibration is the third of the 7 Hermetic principles. These laws form the basis of the spiritual teachings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. This law invites us to perceive that movement is the essence of all creation, and that there is no true solidity in anything we perceive as matter. At its deepest level, everything is made up of energy, and this energy is always in motion. This perception was revolutionary in ancient thought, going beyond what could be perceived with ordinary senses. The idea that everything vibrates is not exclusive to Hermeticism. It resonates across various spiritual traditions. In Hinduism and the Vedic texts, for example, Om is considered the primordial sound, the original vibration of creation that permeates the entire cosmos. Ancient Egyptians and Greeks believed that understanding this cosmic dance was essential for attaining harmony and wisdom, as they recognized that the universe was in a constant state of flow and transformation. Heraclitus, for instance, stated that everything flows, and that change is the only constant in life. For Hermeticism, vibration is the bridge between the visible and invisible, the physical and the metaphysical. This is why the law of vibration is fundamental for understanding the other Hermetic laws, as it allows us to grasp how matter, mind, and spirit connect. Matter is frozen light. This material world is essentially light vibrating at an extremely low frequency. Each form of matter and energy has a specific frequency, and this frequency determines the characteristics and reality of each object, being, or thought. Today, modern physics confirms what the ancients intuited. In quantum physics, it is understood that the material world is composed of atoms and subatomic particles that are in constant motion and vibration. This incessant movement creates the reality we perceive, although it is much more fluid and impermanent than our senses lead us to believe. For Einstein, who stated that everything in the universe is energy and vibration, the material world and energy were merely different forms of the same essence. This idea is illustrated by the famous equation E equals mc squared, where matter, m, and energy, E, are interchangeable. This principle resonates deeply with the Hermetic view that everything is a vibrational manifestation of a single fundamental essence. In summary, the law of vibration is one of the cornerstones of Hermetic cosmology, teaching us that the universe is not a collection of separate, inert objects, but a unified field of energy in constant motion. By recognizing this law, Hermetic practitioners seek to align themselves with the highest vibrations, both in mind and spirit, thereby ascending toward a deeper understanding of the All. To understand the law of vibration in depth, it is essential to relate it to modern science, particularly to the field of quantum physics, which reveals how matter and energy, at their deepest core, are in constant motion and vibration. Quantum physics shows that what we perceive as solid matter is actually a dance of subatomic particles, protons, neutrons, and electrons, in constant motion. These elemental components form atoms, which vibrate incessantly at different frequencies. This vibration occurs even in the so-called rest state, and is the foundation of all matter. This means that each object, whether a grain of sand or a star, has a specific vibrational frequency that, together with other particles and energies, composes its apparent form. Even atoms, once considered the smallest building blocks of existence, are composed of even smaller particles, such as quarks and gluons, which also vibrate constantly. This incessant movement suggests that the universe is a complex web of vibrations. And, as the law of vibration proposes, nothing is truly at rest. All that exists is in constant flux. German physicist Werner Heisenberg introduced the uncertainty principle, stating that it is impossible to simultaneously determine both the position and velocity of a particle with precision. This revolutionary principle led scientists to understand that, on a quantum level, matter does not have a fixed form, but oscillates and disappears in waves of possibilities, returning as particles. Here, again, we see the essence of the Hermetic concept. Matter is a temporary state, a momentary condensation of energy in constant vibration and transformation. These waves of possibilities are actually vibrations or fluctuations of energy that form the quantum field. When we observe the behavior of particles, we find that observation itself influences reality, altering the vibration and frequency of what is observed. This implies that the observer and the observed are interconnected in a vibrational field, where the observer's intention and consciousness can directly impact the outcome. The law of vibration is thus closely linked to the law of mentalism, where mind and energy converge to create reality. If physical matter vibrates, thoughts and emotions, which are also forms of energy, follow the same principle. Neuroscientists and vibration researchers today study how brain frequencies change according to a person's mental state. When we are relaxed, our brain emits low-frequency waves, known as alpha waves, while states of high mental activity and stress generate higher frequency waves, like beta waves. This mental vibration affects not only our body, but also the environment around us. Scientific studies indicate that thoughts and emotions generate electromagnetic fields, that interact with other surrounding frequencies. Research conducted at the HeartMath Institute in California shows that the human heart, for example, emits an electromagnetic field much more powerful than the brain. This field vibrates according to the person's emotional state, influencing both their own body and the environment. These findings suggest that by adjusting our internal vibration through meditation, mental focus, or intention, we can alter not only our inner state, but also the outer world. Quantum scientists, including figures like Niels Bohr and Max Planck, argue that the universe is a kind of hologram in which matter, energy, and consciousness are interconnected and form a single vast vibrational web. Thus, the reality we experience can be seen as a projection of these quantum vibrations. However, this apparent reality is malleable, responding to the intention and frequency of those who observe it. As Max Planck, the father of quantum theory and creator of the term quantum, stated, "Everything is vibration." This concept of a quantum matrix connects deeply with Hermeticism, which suggests that the universe is a mental creation. Our external reality reflects internal vibrations, and therefore, by altering our internal vibrational frequency through spiritual practices, we can also change our perception and the very essence of reality. If we understand that matter and energy respond to vibration, we also realize that we can transform our reality by changing our internal vibrational frequency. In quantum physics, there is the concept of resonance, where a higher frequency can alter and elevate a lower frequency. This principle of resonance is the key to elevating our consciousness and tuning into higher frequencies, such as love, compassion, and harmony. According to the law of vibration, our highest and most harmonious thoughts and emotions align us with these purest cosmic vibrations, creating a state of unity with the All. By cultivating an elevated consciousness, we become, in a sense, resonant with universal energy, allowing us to transform our perception, health, and even the events in our lives. In Hermetic thought, vibrations are not limited to physical matter alone. Thoughts and emotions are also considered forms of energy, each possessing its own vibrational frequency. As Hermes Trismegistus taught, the universe, constantly vibrating, includes not only what we can see and touch, but also our inner states. Here, the law of vibration becomes profoundly practical. Understanding that our thoughts and emotions emit frequencies allows us to transform our reality by adjusting our inner vibration. Modern science has also investigated and acknowledged the vibrational capacity of thoughts. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain emits electromagnetic waves corresponding to our thoughts and emotional states. These waves, which can be measured as alpha, beta, theta, and delta waves, represent different levels of brain activity. For example, alpha waves are associated with relaxation, while beta waves occur during moments of concentration and logical thinking. Each mental state vibrates at a different frequency, impacting both our body and the environment around us. A positive and constructive thought emits a different frequency than one rooted in fear or negativity. Psychologist David Hawkins developed a scale of consciousness that measures the frequency of various emotional and mental states. According to this scale, feelings such as peace, love, and joy have high vibrations, whereas emotions like hatred, resentment, and guilt vibrate at lower frequencies. Hawkins noted, "Love and peace vibrate at a frequency high enough to transform the environment and elevate one's consciousness." This principle speaks directly to the power of the mind to influence the vibrational field around it. Just like thought, emotions are also vibrations that impact both our being and the external world. Intense emotions like love, gratitude, and compassion are waves that emanate from our body and mind, influencing everything around us. When we feel anger, envy, or fear, we generate a denser, heavier frequency, negatively affecting both our bodies and our surroundings. A study conducted by the HeartMath Institute shows that the human heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends around the body and can be detected meters away. This field vibrates according to our emotional state. Emotions such as love and appreciation create a harmonious and coherent vibration, whereas stress and anxiety produce a chaotic and dissonant field. The HeartMath Institute suggests that cultivating higher emotions balances not only our system, but also positively influences those around us. Thus, emotions are a kind of vibrational signature that we constantly emit. When we are in a state of joy or compassion, our vibrational field harmonizes with the universe's energy, creating an attractive field for experiences and people with similar vibrations. The law of vibration is closely connected to the famous law of attraction, almost as if the law of attraction derives from it. Understanding this is the key to obtaining what one desires. Cultivating high-frequency emotions, such as love, gratitude, and compassion, transforms our vibrational field and puts us in resonance with a more harmonious reality. When we choose elevated thoughts and self-care practices, our personal vibration aligns with the universe's higher vibrations. This is the Hermetic Principle of self-mastery. By mastering our internal vibrational field, we master our destiny. As within, so without. As we elevate our vibration, our perception expands and intuition sharpens. Intuition is a way to receive information beyond rational thought. In elevated vibrational states, the brain emits theta waves, associated with deep relaxation and a consciousness level that facilitates intuitive insights. Spiritually, the more we raise our frequency, the more we align with the waves of the universe. Just as a radio station must be tuned to receive a specific signal, our mind and spirit must vibrate at a harmonious frequency to capture messages and intuitions from subtler planes. Practices like silent meditation and mindful presence help quiet the mental noise and stabilize internal frequency, creating space for intuition and clarity to emerge. These moments allow deep insights to arise spontaneously, revealing truths and directions that would otherwise remain hidden from conscious understanding. Love is widely recognized in various traditions as the highest frequency that a human can vibrate at. When we feel love, not conditional love or attachment, but universal unconditional love, our cells, thoughts, and emotions vibrate in harmony with divine energy. This state of love is described by mystics and spiritual seekers as the experience of oneness, where the illusion of separation dissolves and we feel unified with everything around us. Psychologist David Hawkins, in his study of consciousness levels, also emphasized that the vibration of love can transform an entire life experience. He defined love as a powerful frequency that dissolves fear and can literally heal both the person who emits it and the environment around them. From the Hermetic perspective, when we vibrate in love, we unite our individual energy with the creative energy, bringing light and healing not only to ourselves, but also to the collective. One practice that raises our vibration to the level of love is the exercise of compassion. By directing feelings of love and understanding toward all beings, including ourselves, we break free from low-frequency patterns such as judgment and anger, creating a vibrational field where the divine can manifest. Forgiving, for example, is one of the quickest ways to elevate our vibration, as it releases dense emotional burdens and opens us to the frequency of love. At the peak of vibrational elevation, many report experiencing states of oneness. This is the moment when, through deep meditation, spiritual ecstasy, or practices like yoga and qigong, we connect to a cosmic vibration where the concept of self and other disappears. In Hermetic philosophy, this experience is described as a return to the source, where the individual recognizes themselves as an inseparable part of the whole. This experience leads to profound peace, known as samadhi, the state of complete harmony with the universal vibrational flow. By raising our personal vibration, we contribute to the collective consciousness's vibrational elevation. This concept, known as the morphic field by Rupert Sheldrake, suggests that each individual's actions, emotions, and intentions impact the vibration of the whole. When we vibrate in peace and compassion, we are literally infusing these qualities into the collective field, influencing those around us and creating a more harmonious, vibrational atmosphere. The role of elevating the collective vibration is a spiritual responsibility and an act of service as we become channels for divine energy on earth. As taught by mystics and sages, when we elevate our own frequency, we become a light that inspires and awakens others. Gandhi summarized this idea by saying, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Thus, our spiritual mission is to raise our personal vibration, and by doing so, we contribute to a more peaceful, loving, and connected world. Now that we understand we have the power to modify our reality by altering our own frequency, the next step is to learn how to apply this knowledge in practice. Here are a few simple methods. Mindful words and thoughts. Our words and thoughts shape the type of vibration we emit. Each negative thought, each critical word, emits a dense vibration that affects our physical and mental health, as well as our environment. Cultivating positive speech and a constructive mindset increases our vibration. Meditation practice. Meditation is a practice that allows us to adjust and elevate our personal vibration. This daily habit creates a mental and physical balance, harmonizing the vibrations of both body and mind. Connecting with nature. Nature possesses pure and balanced vibrations. Walking through a forest, lying on the sand, or diving into the ocean aligns our frequency with these natural energies. Many spiritual traditions recommend contact with nature as a means of healing and energetic balance. Diet and physical health. What we consume directly impacts our vibration. Natural foods like fresh fruits and vegetables carry a higher frequency than processed and industrialized products. Caring for our health through conscious eating keeps us in elevated states of frequency. By cultivating elevated thoughts, pure emotions, and a connection with the higher self, we vibrate in harmony with creation. This is the true essence of the spiritual journey, raising our vibration until it resonates with that of the cosmos, allowing us to experience unity, universal love, and connection with the all. May we remember, in every thought and gesture, that we are made of the same rhythm that moves the stars, of the same breath that gave life to the world. Thank you for watching. Imagine a cosmic dance where everything that exists, light and shadow, love and hate, inspiration and fear, is orchestrated by a single universal truth. Today we will explore that truth, the law of polarity. Get ready to dive deeply into the fourth Hermetic principle and uncover how it shapes the visible and invisible universe around us. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. This quote from the Kybalion forms the foundation of the law of polarity, the fourth Hermetic principle. This law reveals that everything that exists is interconnected through opposing poles: hot and cold, light and darkness, good and evil, positive and negative. These opposites are not enemies locked in eternal conflict. They are complementary, like two forces of the same current, coexisting to create balance and motion. This law is deeply rooted in the structure of the universe. But the law of polarity extends far beyond the physical realm. It operates in our thoughts, emotions, and daily experiences. For example, have you noticed how happiness can only be understood after experiencing sadness? These extremes are two sides of the same emotional coin. In the spiritual journey, the same principle applies. What we call light could not be identified without shadow. Opposites not only coexist, but depend on each other to make sense. The universe is a dance of complementary forces. Thus, understanding the law of polarity is essential to comprehending yourself and the world around you. It invites us to see reality not as a battlefield of extremes, but as a cosmic fabric, where each polarity contributes to creation and universal harmony. Instead of choosing sides, we can learn to navigate between them, finding balance within the dual flow of the universe. And how do we navigate these poles? Through the law of vibration. But we'll get to that. The law of polarity is not merely an abstract theory. It permeates every aspect of our lives, shaping experiences, emotions, and even the simplest, most mundane processes. When preparing a meal, for instance, we apply heat to raw, cold food. This interaction between extremes, heat, positive, and cold, negative, results in something new, food ready to be consumed. Without this polarity, transformation could not occur. It is the balance of temperatures that ensures ideal cooking, neither too burned nor too raw. Polarity also reveals itself in social and political forces. In any political system, there are opposing ideas, conservatism and progressivism, right and left. While they may seem to conflict, these forces are complementary. Both are necessary to balance society, provoking change while ensuring stability. When one ideology dominates entirely, the system becomes rigid or chaotic. The interaction of extremes creates dialogue and, ideally, progress. In the end, everything is part of a single spectrum. The law of polarity manifests powerfully in the realm of human emotions, where we find not only contrasts, but an intricate relationship between opposites that shape our deepest feelings. Love is expansive. It dissolves barriers, connects us, and makes us feel aligned with something greater than ourselves. Fear, its opposite polarity, is contractive. It distances us, creates barriers, and drives actions based on instincts of protection or survival. These two polarities are the foundation of all creation. The ultimate alchemy is the transmutation from one polarity to the other, moving from extreme fear to unconditional love. This is the union with the divine. If love and fear are opposing forces that expand and contract our perception, hatred and passion are poles of energy manifesting in emotional intensity. Both carry fire. They are overwhelming feelings that either move us towards something or repel us with great force. Hatred arises as an intense response, a destructive force that rejects and seeks to eliminate the object of feeling. Passion, on the other hand, is equally intense but constructive. It drives us to create, connect, and explore. Both poles are interconnected. Human emotions are not static. They flow from one pole to the other, like a pendulum. The law of polarity teaches us that recognizing this oscillation is the first step toward transforming our emotional states. Polarity is expressed in the very essence of existence. life can only be understood because death exists, and vice versa. The leaves of a tree fall in autumn to nourish the soil in winter, allowing life to be reborn in spring. These cycles are a constant reminder of the dance between opposing poles occurring all the time. Even the simplest decisions we make reflect the law of polarity. Every choice implies renouncing an alternative. For example, by choosing to wake up early to meditate, you forgo the comfort of sleeping longer. By opting for a spiritual path, you distance yourself from the superficiality of material life. These choices are the practical manifestation of opposites working together. There is no absolute right or wrong, only the dynamic balance between polarities that you choose to live. The foundation of all matter in the universe is the atom, and its very existence is a perfect manifestation of polarity. Protons, positive charge. Located in the atom's nucleus, they represent the centralizing force that holds the structure together. Electrons, negative charge. Orbiting around the nucleus, they are dynamic forces, generating motion and energy. These opposites interact to create stability. Without this electrical polarity, atoms could not form molecules, and matter as we know it would cease to exist. The force of attraction between protons and electrons is not merely functional, but is also responsible for structuring everything, from the oxygen we breathe to the stars in the cosmos. In essence, everything that exists in the manifested universe is energy oscillating between two polarities through the law of vibration. The law of vibration determines where this energy falls on the spectrum, and consequently, its characteristics. One of the most fascinating examples of this polarity lies in electromagnetic waves, the foundation for technologies such as radio, television, the internet, and even our biological systems. Electromagnetic waves are vibrations that travel through space carrying energy. They are composed of two fields oscillating in opposing poles, the electric field, positive and negative, the magnetic field, north and south. These fields are in constant motion, creating an interaction that propels the wave forward. It is the polarity between these fields that allows energy to travel, carrying signals from one point to another, whether through light, heat, or data transmissions. The light we see is an electromagnetic wave, just like the radio signals or Wi-Fi we use daily. What differentiates one from the other is frequency and wavelength, both manifestations of the law of vibration, intrinsically connected to polarity. We live in a world connected by invisible networks, all based on electromagnetic waves. The duality between the electric and magnetic fields is the engine that sustains this entire technological infrastructure. When you use your smartphone or computer, electromagnetic signals are constantly being sent and received. Satellites orbiting Earth operate on the same principles to transmit radio, TV, and GPS signals. Even the electricity powering our devices is a direct manifestation of polarity, constantly alternating between positive and negative charges in what we call alternating current, AC. This continuous cycle enables the efficient transmission of energy. The law of polarity, in harmony with the law of vibration, is a powerful key to the conscious creation of reality. While polarity reveals the two extremes of a spectrum of possibilities, vibration is the driving force oscillating between those poles. When we understand how these laws operate together, we gain the ability to shape our lives consciously, aligned with universal forces. Polarity presents the extremes, hot and cold, love and fear, light and shadow. Vibration, on the other hand, is the continuous movement between these extremes. Take temperature, for instance. Hot and cold are not isolated qualities. They are merely names we give to represent two opposite points on the same spectrum. Temperature. By increasing or decreasing vibration, you can transform cold into heat and vice versa, effectively navigating along this spectrum. This logic can be applied to any situation. Imagine you are facing financial difficulties. Instead of focusing on what is lacking, complaining, and adopting a victim mindset, vibrating at the frequency of scarcity, the lower part of the spectrum, you can deliberately practice gratitude for what you already have and visualize prosperity as a present reality. By intentionally adjusting your vibration to the frequency of abundance, higher part of the spectrum, you naturally attract opportunities aligned with the pole of prosperity. Think this is nonsense? Give it a try. The alchemist's laboratory is their own mind. Conduct the experiments for yourself, and then decide, based on your own experience, if this is not how reality truly works. As Heraclitus once said, struggle is the mother of all things. The dialectic between opposites creates movement, growth, and evolution. There is no progress without opposition, no evolution without challenge. Life, with all its polarities, is an expression of this eternal truth. The key to true wisdom lies in understanding the necessity of opposites, while simultaneously transcending the idea of separation. Rather than rejecting or battling one pole, we must learn to integrate both sides within ourselves. The true alchemy of the soul is the ability to navigate these contrasts. When you face a challenge or a difficult situation, instead of focusing solely on the problem, the negative pole, you can choose to see the lesson or opportunity it presents, the positive pole. This transforms adversity into fertile ground for growth and learning. Every moment of our lives offers the opportunity to experience polarity. It is present in our relationships, our emotions, our choices, and even in the small, everyday decisions. However, true transformation occurs when we realize that we are not at the mercy of these opposites, but are co-creators of our reality. By becoming aware that everything has two polarities, we can use this as a tool to move toward growth. True freedom comes when we understand that we are more than the poles we experience. We are the consciousness behind the polarity, capable of choosing which side to align with, thus shaping our reality. What are you creating in your life today? Are you choosing to feed fear or love? Thank you for watching. In the dance of the universe, everything follows a rhythm. Everything oscillates. Everything pulses in perfect cycles. This is the fifth Hermetic principle, the law of rhythm. A universal principle that invites us to observe the movement of the tides, the cycle of the seasons, and even the ups and downs of our lives. Understanding this law is to find harmony amid chaos, balance amid change. Today we will explore the secret behind this cosmic rhythm and how it manifests in every aspect of existence. Imagine the universe as an eternal dance, a continuous movement from one side to the other, a flow and ebb that never stops. This is rhythm, invisible yet present, subtle yet undeniable. The fifth Hermetic principle, known as the law of rhythm, teaches us that everything in the universe follows cycles. There is always an action and a reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe, suns, worlds, men, animals, mind, energy, and matter. This law is manifest in the creation and destruction of worlds, in the rise and fall of nations, in the life of all things, and finally, in the mental states of man. Everything flows in and out, in a pendulum motion that governs existence. Just like the waves of the sea, there is a moment of advance and a moment of retreat, What rises will inevitably fall. What is born will one day dissolve. Just as there was an emanation at the beginning of everything, at some point the universe will stop expanding as it does now and begin the reverse motion, a compensation, until everything returns to how it was in the beginning. This is the breath of God. The law of rhythm also governs our lives. Notice how our days oscillate between light and darkness, our emotions between joy and sadness, our moments between action and rest. It is the rhythm of life. Everything begins and ends. Understanding the law of rhythm is recognizing that nothing is permanent, neither joy nor pain. Everything is in motion. Everything is temporary. Just like the pendulum, the universe also seeks balance amid oscillations. This is the secret of universal harmony. On the vast stage of the universe, rhythm is the invisible maestro. Galaxies spin in cosmic spirals, stars are born in stellar nurseries, and die in magnificent explosions, returning to the dust of space. Each pulse of light, each movement of the celestial bodies, follows a cycle. Nothing is stationary. Everything dances to the sound of a universal rhythm. Look at the sky. The sun rises and sets in a perfect cycle that sustains life on Earth. The phases of the moon influence the tides, fertility cycles, and even our emotions. The universe breathes. It expands and contracts, as if the entire cosmos were alive. On Earth, the same principle manifests. The seasons follow one another in perfect harmony. Spring brings life, summer matures, autumn harvests, and winter rests. It is the eternal cycle of renewal. Just as in nature, everything in our existence is governed by cycles, flow and ebb, birth and death, inhalation and exhalation. Rhythm is the signature of the all. By observing it, we discover that change is not our enemy, but part of life's dance. Understanding this principle aligns us with cosmic order, accepting that even the most powerful forces follow the compass of universal harmony. Rhythm is not just an external force, it is within us. Blood flows in our veins in a constant stream, the heart beats in a unique cadence, and our breathing follows the rhythm of life. Everything vibrates in tune with this law. And what about the tides of the ocean? They advance and retreat, as if following a celestial choreography dictated by the moon. Just as the waters move in cycles, our thoughts and emotions also have their highs and lows. Nothing escapes the pendular motion of rhythm. Notice the hidden harmony in every aspect of nature. Rivers flow to the sea, but never chaotically. They follow the path shaped by gravity and terrain. Trees grow slowly, in cycles of expansion and rest, respecting the seasons. Even the smallest insect, deep in the forest, lives in sync with its surroundings. The law of rhythm is a reminder that the universe is not chaotic, but deeply ordered. Behind every apparent disorder lies a precise dance, an oscillation that maintains the balance of the all. When we look closely, we see that chaos is merely rhythm we have yet to understand. When we align ourselves with natural cycles, we live in harmony with the universe. And just as the sun always rises after the darkest night, we can trust that after every fall, there will be a rebirth. This is the eternal pulse of creation, a truth that echoes in every corner of the cosmos. In our lives, rhythm also silently governs every moment. From the instant we are born, we begin to dance with the cycles of existence. Childhood fills us with energy and discovery. Youth drives us with passion and ambition. Maturity brings us responsibility and reflection, and old age teaches us the wisdom of rest. Everything has its time, and each phase has its purpose. But rhythm is not only in the major transitions of life. It is present in our daily lives. Some days we are full of energy, inspired, ready to conquer the world. On others, we feel tired, introspective, needing silence and pause. This movement between highs and lows is natural, part of the pendulum that swings incessantly within us. Even our emotions obey this principle. There are moments of joy when the world seems to shine, followed by periods of sadness or restlessness. Resisting these oscillations is futile. The attempt to remain in a permanent state, whether of happiness or stability, is like trying to stop the flow of a river. The secret lies in observing without attachment. When you are in a moment of ascension, enjoy it, but know that it will end. When you are in a challenging period, remember that the tide always changes, and the light will return. As the Persian poet Rumi said, "This moment of difficulty too shall pass." It is the pendulum of life, swinging from one extreme to the other, but always returning to balance. The law of rhythm is not a punishment or a trap. It is a reminder that everything we experience is part of a greater dance. When we understand this, we stop fighting the tides and begin to navigate with them. This is the path to harmony. Think of emotions as an invisible pendulum that continuously swings between extremes. In one moment we feel joy, enthusiasm, the lightness of a heart at peace. In the next, we may be overcome by sadness, anger, or discouragement. This oscillation is natural, part of the universal cycle that governs all existence. Most of us, however, try to resist this movement. When we are happy, we want to freeze the moment, clinging to the feeling as if we could keep it forever. But the pendulum must swing. It is propelled by the very force of the universe. The more we cling to the positive side, the more intensely it swings to the opposite. This is the trap. The greater the enthusiasm, the greater the potential for melancholy. On the other hand, when we are in negative emotional states, we often fight against them, seeking immediate escape. But just as the pendulum returns to the center, the challenging emotion will also pass. Resisting it is like trying to hold back the waves of the sea with your hands. The secret is to allow the movement to occur, without fighting, without attachment. Spiritual masters of all ages have taught us the same truth. Neutrality is key. Hermes Trismegistus wrote, "The master is not a slave to the pendulum. He observes the motion, but is not carried away by it." Understanding this wisdom means learning to remain at the point of balance, at the center of the pendulum. This is where peace resides. When you feel a strong emotion, whether good or bad, pause. Observe the feeling as if you were a spectator. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this? Where is this pendulum moving? This simple practice of observation can break the cycle of automatic reaction and bring clarity. Imagine your emotions as the weather. One day it might be sunny and warm, the next, rainy and cold. You don't control the weather, but you can decide how you will respond to it. The law of rhythm teaches us not to identify with the extremes. We are not the storm, nor the shining sun. We are the unchanging sky that observes the changes. Understanding the emotional pendulum is liberating. It is accepting that nothing lasts forever, neither moments of difficulty nor moments of ecstasy. This knowledge does not leave us indifferent, but makes us wiser. It allows us to enjoy the highs without losing ourselves in them, and to face the lows without being destroyed. At the center of the pendulum, we find balance, and with it, true freedom. At its core, the law of compensation manifests as the expression of universal balance. The term compensation carries the idea of counterbalancing, and this is precisely how Hermetists employ the concept. When the Kybalion states, "The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left," rhythm compensates. It unveils the hidden dynamic governing all aspects of the universe. from the simplest physical experiences to the most complex manifestations of the spirit. In the cosmic dance of the universe, the law of compensation acts as the guardian of balance between opposites. Simply put, movement in one direction always finds its response in the opposite direction, and thus one movement compensates for the other. On the physical plane, this law is easily observed. The pendulum of a clock, for instance, swings in one direction and then returns with equal measure in the opposite direction. Similarly, the tides that rise during the full moon retreat with equal force during the waning moon. The seasons of the year, alternating between heat and cold, follow one another in perfect harmony, reflecting the natural oscillation of all cycles. Even the motion of a projectile launched upward, with its initial force, is equally compensated when gravity pulls it back to the ground. However, Hermetists go further. They teach that this law is not limited to the physical plane, but extends to all dimensions of human experience, including mental and emotional states. An individual who experiences more subtle pleasures is inevitably subject to equally subtle sufferings, while someone who lives the pains of life more intensely also experiences a deeper capacity for joy. Human beings, like all living creatures, are constantly oscillating between extremes of pleasure and suffering, and compensation is revealed in the direct relationship between them. There exists, therefore, a law governing the degree of joy and suffering of each being, and compensation is the scale that maintains order in the cosmos. The law of compensation, in its depth, teaches that to experience a certain degree of pleasure, the individual must first have experienced, at some point in their existence, a proportional degree of suffering. However, Hermetists reveal a more refined aspect of this compensation. They assert that although the negative arises from the positive, this does not mean that pleasure must always be immediately paid for, with corresponding suffering. On the contrary, the pleasure we experience may be part of a rhythmic movement, a compensatory return for past suffering, whether from our current incarnation or previous lives. This revelation sheds new light on the problem of suffering. Suffering is not a curse imposed upon us, but a natural part of the cycle, a movement of the pendulum that will inevitably be followed by compensation in the form of pleasure. Pain, like pleasure, is transient, and its compensation will come, even if in another form and at another time, restoring the lost harmony. The law of compensation applies tangibly to the lives of human beings. It is generally understood that anything we possess or lack, whether material goods, health, or emotional states, is paid for in some way. Nothing is given without something being taken away. Thus, the wealthy possess material abundance that the poor lack. But in return, they may be deprived of the simplicity and inner peace that the poor, in their more modest lives, may find on their journey. Material wealth is often accompanied by emotional or spiritual loss. The millionaire may live surrounded by luxury, but lack the appetite or health to fully enjoy their opulence. Meanwhile, the laborer, with fewer material possessions, finds pleasure in simple things, and the enjoyment of a humble meal may bring them more satisfaction than the wealthy person who lacks a healthy appetite. The law of compensation is an active, ever-present force, working tirelessly to restore the universe's balance. It is the principle that keeps the cosmic order, compelling the pendulum of life to swing back to the center. The compensatory movement may not be immediate, but it always aligns with life's natural rhythm. Through the experience of pleasure and pain, gain and loss, the human soul learns to navigate the cycles of existence, knowing that at the end of every movement, the scale will balance, restoring universal harmony. The law of rhythm cannot be stopped, but it can be understood, and with practice, mastered. When you realize that life is made of cycles, you can begin to prepare for its oscillations, avoiding being swept away by them. Wisdom lies in learning to surf the waves of rhythm rather than fighting against them. First, observe the cycle. Most people live without noticing the patterns in their own lives. Yet, rhythm leaves clear signs. When you start paying attention, you will see that your emotions, energy levels, and even external events follow a pattern. For instance, after days of intense productivity at work, you may notice mental and even physical fatigue. This is not weakness. It is the natural rhythm of your biological body seeking balance. Second, anticipate the movement. If you know that a phase of expansion will be followed by contraction, you can prepare for what's coming. In moments of joy, cultivate gratitude, but keep your feet on the ground, knowing that this state may pass. In moments of difficulty, remind yourself that it is temporary. The tide always changes. A powerful tool for handling intense oscillations of rhythm is conscious breathing. When you feel the pendulum swinging too strongly, pause. Breathe deeply. Inhale through your nose, counting to 4. Hold your breath for another 4 seconds. Exhale slowly, counting to 8. This simple exercise helps stabilize your mind and restore inner balance. Another practice is silence. Set aside a few minutes each day for meditation, or simply for contemplation. In this state, you connect to the rhythm of the universe without becoming a slave to it. Above all, practice acceptance. Do not resist the oscillations. Accepting life's rhythm does not mean resigning yourself, but rather flowing with wisdom. When the pendulum swings, it is not out of control. It is merely obeying the laws that maintain the balance of the all. Remember, the rhythm never ceases. What truly matters, however, is how you choose to dance. Learn to listen to your inner cycles, the tides of your soul, and harmonize yourself with the universal flow. Ultimately, understanding and mastering the law of rhythm is the path to true freedom. Thank you for watching. Imagine an immense cosmic loom, where every thread is interwoven with absolute precision, creating the grand tapestry of existence. Every event, every thought, every breath is a part of this masterful design. There are no loose threads, no accidents. Everything you have ever experienced, unexpected encounters, painful challenges, moments of ecstasy, all have an origin, a cause. And every cause has its effect. Everything happens according to the law. Chance is merely a name given to an unrecognized law. This is the law of cause and effect, the 6th Hermetic Principle. This law is the principle governing the universal loom. When we grasp its depth, we realize that nothing in life is arbitrary. What we call luck or misfortune is, in fact, the effect of invisible causes we planted in the past, sometimes in this life, sometimes in other dimensions of our existence. Today, we will embark on this journey of discovery together. We will unveil the mysteries of the law of cause and effect and learn how it governs our reality. More importantly, we will learn how to master it so we can become architects of our own destiny. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to the law. Chance is but a name for the law not recognized. This statement, drawn from the Kybalion, invites us to look at reality with heightened awareness, to recognize that behind the apparent chaos of the universe lies a sublime and flawless order. The law of cause and effect is the invisible foundation of all existence. It teaches us that every event we experience, from the greatest achievements to the most painful challenges, is the result of a chain of causes. Nothing just happens. Every effect we encounter is a direct reflection of causes. Some visible, others hidden in the deepest planes of existence. But here lies the secret understood by initiates. There are different levels of causality. Most people operate on the physical plane, reacting to external causes like leaves moved by the wind. They feel at the mercy of greater forces, prisoners of circumstances they believe are beyond their control. The Hermeticist, however, knows that the most powerful causes are not born on the physical plane, but on the mental plane. As the Kybalion teaches, the mind is the field of creation where the first seeds of every cause are planted. Our thoughts, intentions, and emotions are causal forces, shaping not only our actions, but also the experiences we attract. Consider this example. A word spoken in anger might seem like a momentary reaction, but it is the effect of a prior cause, a thought or feeling already vibrating within you. That word, in turn, generates new effects, a conflict, a rupture, or even an opportunity for learning. Thus, the chain of causality continues, endlessly, in all directions. What the Kybalion teaches us is that chance is simply the name we give to our ignorance of the law. When we understand this truth, a world of possibilities opens. We no longer need to be spectators of life, hit by the effects of causes we do not comprehend. We can become conscious creators, planting the seeds of the future we wish to harvest. This is the promise of the law of cause and effect, the freedom to transcend the role of victim and assume the role of master. Imagine rolling a die. When it lands on the table and shows a number, it might seem like it happened by chance, as if it were pure luck. But in truth, that's not how things work. Everything in the world happens for a reason. Think of the die. The number that appears depends on various factors: how you held the die, how much force you used to throw it, how it spun through the air, and even the surface it landed on. All these factors together decide which number will show. So it's not luck or misfortune. It's a set of causes that makes it happen. The word chance is often used when we do not know or cannot see all the reasons behind something. For example, when flipping a coin, it might land heads or tails. It seems random, but if we could observe exactly how the coin was flipped, the force applied, and even the wind in the air, we could predict which side would land face up. The Kybalion uses the example of a storm to illustrate this idea. For many, a sudden storm might seem fortuitous or random. However, the storm's formation follows precise meteorological laws. Conditions of pressure, temperature, humidity, and other factors align specifically to produce it. With knowledge of all these conditions, the storm could be predicted with accuracy. Thus, what seemed like chance is nothing more than a natural event guided by precise causes. The same applies to human life. Many consider success or failure to be matters of luck. However, every event in our lives is the effect of a cause, be it an action, a thought, or even a choice made long ago. Everything we do generates results, even if we cannot immediately see the consequences. Trying to understand the law of cause and effect solely through the movements of the physical plane is like looking at the tip of an iceberg and believing it to be the entire structure. It's a limited perspective. Hermeticism transcends this view, revealing that causality operates simultaneously across multiple planes: mental, astral, and physical. To grasp the depth of this law, we must explore its manifestations in all these dimensions. Since the time of Sir Isaac Newton, the principle of causality has been a cornerstone of science. Newton's third law states, "For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction." This idea, though simple, profoundly echoes the Hermetic principle. In the physical universe, no force, movement, or event occurs without a prior cause. When an apple falls from a tree, it is the effect of gravity. When a stone hits a lake, the ripples that form are the direct effect of the initial action. But modern physics has taken this concept even further. In quantum mechanics, we find that causality can operate in mysterious and seemingly paradoxical ways. Quantum entanglement, for instance, suggests that particles separated by vast distances can influence each other instantaneously, challenging our linear understanding of cause and effect. This raises the question, is there a deeper dimension where invisible causes operate beyond time and space? Hermeticists would answer with a resounding yes. They have always known that causality transcends the physical world, manifesting on subtler levels of existence. The Hermetic sages have long emphasized that causality is not merely linear, but multidimensional. This means that the cause of an event on the physical plane may originate from a thought, intention, or emotion on the mental plane. Franz Bardon, in Initiation into Hermetics, states, "True creation begins on the higher planes. What we see in the physical world is merely the delayed reflection of what has already been shaped on the mental and astral planes." For instance, a persistent thought of fear can create tension in the physical body, leading to illness. Conversely, thoughts of love and gratitude can foster states of well-being and health. The word karma comes from Sanskrit and literally means action. However, in a spiritual context, it refers to the totality of consequences generated by our actions, thoughts, and intentions. Every cause we create, whether consciously or unconsciously, leaves a mark on the fabric of the universe, and these marks eventually return to us as effects. Here lies the secret of karma. It is not just about what we do, but how we do it. The same action can generate different karmas depending on the intention behind it. For instance, helping someone with the desire to inflate one's ego creates one type of energy, while helping with genuine compassion creates another. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, "Action is inevitable, but the true sage acts without attachment to the fruits of their actions." The law of cause and effect, in a Hermetic context, operates across all planes, physical, mental, and spiritual. Karma is the manifestation of this law when viewed through the lens of the soul's journey across multiple lifetimes. While the law of cause and effect teaches that every action generates a reaction, karma broadens this perspective, showing that these reactions may not manifest immediately or even within the same lifetime. Karma thus acts as a universal balancing system, ensuring that no cause is left without its corresponding effect. One of the most striking aspects of karma is its relationship with time. While the law of cause and effect on the physical plane can produce immediate results, such as touching fire and being burned, spiritual karma operates over longer cycles. Its causes can span lifetimes, creating repetitive patterns that offer opportunities for learning and evolution. These patterns are known as karmic cycles. For example, someone who abuses power in one life may reincarnate in circumstances where they experience powerlessness, allowing them to learn the lesson of empathy and balance. One of the greatest misconceptions about karma is viewing it as a system of punishment and reward. In truth, karma is a pedagogical mechanism designed to teach us universal laws and guide our soul toward harmony. Karma does not return to us what we deserve, but what we need to grow, what we ourselves have created. It offers us the chance to recognize our mistakes, correct our paths, and align our lives with higher laws. The law of cause and effect and karma do not exist to imprison us, but to liberate us. When we understand their dynamics, we cease to be victims of fate and become masters of our reality. As Eliphas Levi once said, "He who knows the law does not complain of it. Instead, he uses it for his purpose." We live in a world where many feel at the mercy of circumstances. Most people believe they are victims of external forces, fate, luck, or misfortune. This perception creates a sense of powerlessness, an invisible prison where responsibility for one's destiny is handed over to something or someone outside oneself. But the law of cause and effect offers extraordinary liberation. It reveals that we are the creators, consciously or not, of everything we experience. The first step toward mastery is to take full responsibility for your life. This does not mean blaming yourself for the past, but understanding that, in some way, you were the cause of everything you have experienced, whether through thoughts, actions, or omissions. Everything in the universe operates according to the law. When we stop blaming the world and start looking within, we free ourselves from the role of the victim. We become aware that every choice, thought, and action has an impact on the world around us and on what we receive in return. The true master is one who not only reacts to circumstances, but consciously creates new conditions. They observe their choices and intentionally plant the seeds they wish to harvest. Imagine that your mind is a fertile field and that every thought is a seed. Thoughts of fear, doubt, or resentment will produce bitter fruit. But thoughts of courage, love, and gratitude will yield a harvest of harmony and prosperity. Franz Bardon, in Initiation into Hermetics, emphasizes that the magician works on the mental plane before any other. The mind is the first motor. What we create in the mind inevitably manifests on the material plane. By mastering the mind, you master the cause, and by mastering the cause, you master the effect. Even the wisest of masters cannot escape the causes they themselves planted in the past. But instead of resisting unwanted effects, the master embraces them as precious lessons. They understand that every challenge is an opportunity to grow and align more closely with the law. The Buddha said, "What you are today is the result of your thoughts of yesterday. What you will be tomorrow is the result of your thoughts today." What distinguishes the master from the victim is not the absence of challenges, but how they face them. The master sees the effects in their life not as punishments or rewards, but as perfect reflections of their own actions and intentions. They understand that life is not happening to them, but through them. By mastering the law of cause and effect, you become free. Not a freedom that escapes the law, for that is impossible, but a freedom that arises from alignment with it. You become the conscious creator of your reality, a true alchemist who transforms every moment into an opportunity for evolution and self-mastery. As the Kybalion teaches, freedom lies in the understanding of the law. From this point, the question we must ask ourselves is, what seeds are we planting today? Are we creating the reality we desire, or are we perpetuating patterns that imprison us? The answer lies in your hands. Be the master. Thank you for watching. Imagine a tiny seed. It seems inert, almost insignificant, until it is placed in the soil. But something magical happens when the seed, which carries within it the masculine principle of potentiality, encounters the fertile soil, representing the feminine principle of nourishment and receptivity. Together, they initiate a process that transforms something seemingly simple into a majestic tree, full of life and purpose. This natural phenomenon is a perfect manifestation of the law of gender, the seventh of the Hermetic principles. Just like the seed and the soil, everything in the universe, including our minds and spirits, depends on the interaction and balance between masculine and feminine energies to create, transform, and manifest. In this video, we will explore how this universal law applies to all aspects of existence, from the physical to the spiritual, revealing the secrets of how these two opposing yet complementary forces work together to sustain all creation. The law of gender is one of the most profound among the 7 Hermetic principles. It transcends the common notion of masculine and feminine, connecting to a universal dynamic of polarities that permeates all creation. At the core of this law lies the understanding that everything in the universe contains 2 complementary principles, the masculine and the feminine. These do not merely refer to biological or societal aspects, but to archetypal forces that shape the workings of all existence. The masculine represents active, expansive, and projective energy. It is the creative impulse, the initiating will, the spark that sets movement into motion. It is like the ray of sunlight touching the earth, without which life could not germinate. The feminine symbolizes receptive, nurturing, and generative energy. The fertile soil that transforms a seed into a tree. It embodies introspection, intuition, and the ability to create from within. These forces are not oppositional in the sense of conflict, but complementary, like 2 halves of a whole that together create universal harmony. Masculine energy is not exclusive to men, just as feminine energy does not belong solely to women. These forces are universal, residing within all beings, and are in constant interplay within us. In the Hermetic context, masculine energy is the active principle, movement, logic, direction, and creative force. It is the spark that transforms potential into reality. Without it, there is no action. Without action, there is no creation. But like every universal principle, masculine energy requires balance. When in harmony, it is like a flowing stream, moving mountains and fertilizing lands. When imbalanced, it can become a destructive tsunami. Masculine energy is often symbolized by the sun, the sword, or lightning. These archetypes represent its nature. Masculine energy brings discernment and reason, light and clarity, illuminating the path ahead. It provides the drive to overcome obstacles and face challenges with strength and courage. Like an arrow aimed at its target, it is the force that keeps us focused on our goals. This energy is associated with the left hemisphere of the brain, which governs logical reasoning, analysis, and strategy. When well channeled, it makes us achievers. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, masculine energy appears in archetypes such as the warrior, with his courage and discipline. He reminds us that strength lies not only in the physical, but also in the determination to face challenges. The king, a symbol of leadership and integrity. He guides with wisdom and creates stability. The magician, who transforms knowledge into power. He represents logic and the curiosity of the masculine spirit. The lover, who directs passion to create and nurture meaningful connections. These archetypes are facets of the masculine that we must integrate in balance to access our full potential. When masculine energy loses its balance, the signs are clear. The individual seeks to dominate everything and everyone, believing their vision is the only correct one. This authoritarianism manifests in rigid attitudes, leaving no room for listening or adapting. This posture suffocates relationships, blocks creativity, and creates a constant atmosphere of tension. The desire to compete becomes an addiction. Everything turns into a battle to prove superiority, even when unnecessary, in an excessive competitiveness. This mindset breeds isolation, transforming allies into rivals. Logic takes full control, silencing all emotions. This can lead to a sense of emptiness, as if one is constantly battling the world without understanding why. Conversely, when masculine energy is lacking, certain issues arise. The potential exists, but the force to realize it is absent. The individual feels incapable of acting, delaying decisions and responsibilities, leading to procrastination and apathy. Days pass without purpose, like a boat adrift. Without the masculine drive, there is no clarity of purpose. Life becomes a sequence of meaningless actions, resulting in frustration and a sense of futility. This leads to insecurity and passivity. A lack of confidence in one's power leads to dependence on others to make decisions. Instead of leading, the individual becomes a spectator in their own life. The person demonstrates fragility in the face of challenges. Masculine energy gives us the courage to face difficulties. Without it, even minor obstacles become insurmountable barriers. Masculine energy is the fire that warms and transforms. When balanced, it guides us with courage, clarity, and purpose. It is not merely a force that builds, but also one that protects, leads, and inspires. Cultivating it is an act of self-love, a recognition of the divine power that exists within each of us. Feminine energy is the receptive, fluid, and intuitive side of all things. It manifests in the right hemisphere of our brain and is deeply connected to feelings, delicacy, intuition, attention to detail, insights, receptivity, ancestral wisdom, compassion, patience, lightness, creativity, and art. This force is present in everyone, regardless of biological gender, as one of the fundamental poles of universal balance. While masculine energy acts like an arrow moving forward, feminine energy is the space that embraces, transforms, and gives meaning to action. In Hermeticism, feminine energy is the passive principle, but not in the sense of inertia. Passivity here means receptivity, the ability to absorb, nurture, and transform. It is the mystery, the intuition that connects us to the invisible, the force that helps us create bonds and feel the flow of life in its fullness. This energy is manifested in moments of pause, inner listening, and compassion. It is what allows us to understand without words, feel beyond reason, and create from nothing. One of the most evident examples of feminine energy in nature is the lunar cycle. The moon, with its phases of growth and decline, symbolizes the fluidity, receptivity, and transformation that characterize feminine energy. Just as the moon influences the tides, feminine energy has an invisible but profoundly impactful power that governs cycles and processes. During the growth from the new moon to the full moon, we see the ability to embrace and nurture, while in the decline from the waning moon to the new, we perceive the power of introspection and renewal. This cycle reflects the very essence of the feminine, to create, transform, and rest in perfect harmony with the natural rhythm. Jung identified in the collective unconscious a series of archetypes that represent aspects of feminine energy. The mother, nurturer, protector, source of life and security. This archetype represents the capacity to care for, nurture, and protect both physically and emotionally. In nature, this is seen in animals caring for their young or in fertile soil that nourishes us. The maiden represents youth, potential, innocence, and curiosity. She is the creative energy and the beginning of new cycles. She symbolizes purity and enthusiasm for life, bringing a renewing energy. It is like spring, when everything blooms and new beginnings are possible. The witch represents introspection and the accumulated knowledge of life, which guides and illuminates with deep wisdom, like the waning moon that brings quietude and moments of reflection. The queen, This archetype unites the power to lead with the heart to nurture. She is just and compassionate, governing with wisdom and balance. She represents feminine energy at its peak. But just like masculine energy, feminine energy can also become imbalanced, manifesting in harmful ways, either in excess or deficiency. When feminine energy is in excess, we lose our center and become dominated by emotions, lacking the structure needed to handle challenges. Everything becomes too intense. Small problems are amplified, and there is a tendency to drown in feelings like sadness, anxiety, or fear, uncontrolled emotions. There is a lack of boundaries. Extreme receptivity leads to an inability to say no. People, ideas, and situations enter one's life indiscriminately, causing overload. Or victimization. The person feels trapped by circumstances, unable to take control, and starts blaming external factors for their situation. When feminine energy is deficient, we lose connection with our creative and nurturing essence, leading to a disconnection from intuition. There is difficulty in listening to oneself or understanding what others feel. The person becomes rigid, distancing themselves from the natural flow of life. Ideas stop arising. The inner world feels barren, and the joy of creating or nurturing disappears. Without feminine energy, empathy fades, and the person may become distant and cold. When feminine energy is balanced, the benefits become evident in various aspects of life. There is greater empathy, the ability to listen and understand others without overburdening relationships with unrealistic expectations or emotional dependencies. There is a reconnection with intuition. The power of feminine energy lies in its ability to generate life, deeply connect with others, and create from nothing, like Mother Earth, who generates and nurtures. When balanced, it is a source of wisdom, creativity, and inner peace, allowing for the flow of life and the ability to adapt to challenges with serenity and strength. Its true power lies in its softness and its ability to perceive and transform the world from within. The law of gender transcends humanity and permeates the entire universe. From the vast cosmic expanses to microscopic processes, it is the force governing creation and motion. To understand this law in its entirety, we must observe its manifestations in different areas of existence where the masculine, active, and feminine, receptive principles collaborate to create, transform, and sustain. The law of gender is not confined to the visible world or the physical plane. According to the Kybalion, it is a force that traverses all levels of existence, manifesting uniquely and complementarily across the three great planes, the physical, mental, and spiritual. Each plane reflects this dance between the masculine and feminine principles, demonstrating how the universe is governed by the harmony of polarities. In the plant kingdom, the interaction between masculine and feminine energies is essential for the perpetuation of life. Pollen, masculine, is carried by the wind or insects to the ovary of flowers, feminine, where fertilization occurs, resulting in fruits and seeds. Many animals exhibit mating rituals that reflect this dance of polarities. The male courts, masculine action, and the female chooses and nurtures, feminine receptivity, ensuring the continuation of the species. In the grand theater of existence, the relationship between the masculine and feminine principles is like a cosmic dance, where each plays an indispensable role in creation. The masculine principle bears the responsibility of directing energy, acting as the initial force that awakens and activates the creative potential of the feminine principle. However, it is the feminine, in its essence, that performs the act of creation itself. This dynamic manifests across all planes of existence. Whether in the physical, mental, or spiritual realms, the feminine is the matrix that transforms impulse into form, giving life to what was once only a possibility. and yet neither can act alone. The masculine, no matter how powerful, is incapable of producing results without the receptive feminine. And the feminine, no matter how fertile, lacks the creative impulse provided by the masculine. This union is reflected in the very structure of life. In many forms of existence, both principles are integrated into a single being, coexisting as inseparable parts of a whole. This is why, in all aspects of the organic world, we find the masculine within the feminine, and the feminine within the masculine, like yin and yang, dancing in eternal harmony. Within every human being there is a sun and a moon, a king and a queen. When both dance in harmony, the soul blossoms. The balance between masculine and feminine energies within us is the secret to achieving harmony, creating a powerful magnetic field capable of attracting anything we desire into our lives. The ancient alchemists called this union the alchemical marriage, symbolizing the fusion of the active, masculine, and receptive, feminine principles to create a whole and awakened being. This internal marriage is the key to transforming the ordinary self into an enlightened and fulfilled version of oneself. The alchemical marriage is not merely a metaphor, but a spiritual and psychological practice that refers to the process of integrating internal opposites. Masculine energy represents logic, action, and focus, while feminine energy symbolizes intuition, receptivity, and creativity. Together, they form the perfect unity, like the yin and yang in Taoism, where each force contains a bit of the other. Before achieving balance, it is essential to recognize which of these two energies do you perceive most strongly in your life. This reveals which internal energy is currently dominant. Now let us explore some simple practices to help balance these energies within you. Dance and body movement. Dance is both a symbolic and physical practice that balances both energies. Dance freely, letting your body flow to the rhythm of the music, feminine. Then incorporate deliberate and rhythmic movements, masculine. Cultivate intuition and action. Integrate moments of introspection with concrete actions. Dedicate time to listen to your intuition, feminine, before acting. But plan your steps clearly, masculine, to manifest your intentions. Before starting a creative project, allow yourself to dream and visualize. Then develop a structured plan to execute it. Work with internal archetypes. In the unconscious, the masculine and feminine principles can be seen as archetypes, such as the king and queen, or the warrior and the sage. Ask yourself, which internal archetype needs to be strengthened? Visualize yourself embodying the qualities of that archetype in your daily life. The integration of these energies is not just a spiritual practice, but something that can be applied to your routine. Here's how to bring balance to different areas of life. At work, use your masculine energy to organize tasks and achieve goals, but trust your feminine energy to find creative and intuitive solutions. In relationships, allow the masculine to lead with courage and protection, while the feminine nurtures, understands, listens, and embraces. Healthy relationships reflect the balance between these energies. In spirituality, seek the divine with discipline and devotion, masculine, but also with surrender and trust, feminine. In esoteric traditions, the alchemical marriage is often represented by the union of archetypes, such as the marriage between the king and queen in medieval alchemy. This symbol reminds us that true union does not happen outside of us, but within, when we recognize that all polarities exist within our own soul. The union of the masculine and feminine is not the meeting of two opposing forces, but the fusion of what we already are. It is the moment when we cease being fragments and become the whole. Thank you for watching. We have reached the end of this journey through the 7 Hermetic Principles, a dive into the depths of the ancient wisdom that governs all existence. These principles are not merely abstract concepts. They are practical tools capable of transforming how we see and interact with the world. From mentalism to gender, each principle has shown us that everything is interconnected and that universal harmony is achieved when we live in alignment with these eternal truths. Now the true journey begins within you. The Hermetic Principles are not teachings confined to words. They must be lived, felt, and experienced. As students on the path of light, it is up to us to apply these principles daily, whether to harmonize the mind, balance emotions, or align our soul with the cosmic rhythm. Remember, the master key is now in your hands, awaiting the moment your consciousness decides to use it. May the wisdom of Hermes Trismegistus always guide you, and may you become the master of your own reality. Thank you for watching.